You didn't open this video by accident. Somewhere between the weight of yesterday and the uncertainty of today, something brought you here, and that alone is already a sign. Not the kind of sign that comes in flashes of light or loud voices, but the subtle, quiet kind that arrives at the exact moment the soul needs it most. A video that appeared on your feed, a title that made your finger stop scrolling, a heart that recognized, before the mind even could, that it was time to pause. John 10:27 says, "My sheep hear my voice, and if you are here, you heard it." This is not just a devotional video, it is an encounter, a space created so that you, exactly as you are, with the pain you carry, the doubts you don't speak aloud, and the hopes you still hold quietly inside, can take a deep breath, open your heart, and begin this day differently, with faith, with presence, with Our Lady walking right beside you. The sign you asked for has arrived, and it begins right now, before the noise starts, before the phone buzzes with the first notification, before the obligations stack up on your shoulders like stones you never agreed to carry, before the world outside your window wakes up and begins demanding things from you, your time, your attention, your energy, your smile, even when you have nothing left to give. Before all of that, there is this moment, right now, this exact moment, where it is just you and the silence and something greater than both. Most people rush past this moment without even knowing it exists. They open their eyes and immediately reach for the phone. They check the news before they check their soul. They fill the silence before they ever learn what the silence was trying to say. And so the day begins already fractured, already running, already behind, already heavy, before it has even truly started. But you stopped. Maybe you don't fully understand why. Maybe you can't quite explain what made you pause here, in this space, at this hour, but something in you knew. Something deeper than habit, deeper than routine, deeper than the rational mind that likes to have all the answers. Something in you recognized that today, before anything else, you needed this. And that recognition, that is not small. That is not coincidence. That is grace. There is a particular kind of exhaustion that sleep cannot fix. You may know it well. It is not the tiredness that comes from a long day of work or a restless night. It is something quieter and heavier than that. It is the exhaustion that settles into the bones when life has been asking too much for too long, when you have been strong for everyone around you and forgotten, somewhere along the way, that you are also allowed to be held, when the prayers you have sent up into the sky have seemed to dissolve into silence, and you have begun to wonder, quietly, in the spaces between your thoughts, whether anyone is truly listening. If you have felt that, you are not alone, and you are not forgotten. The shepherd does not abandon the sheep that has wandered into the fog. He goes looking. He calls out, not in anger, not in frustration, but in love, in the kind of love that does not keep a record of how many times you have strayed, or how long it has been since you last came home. He calls because that is what he does. That is who he is. My sheep hear my voice, Jesus said. I know them, and they follow me. He knows you, not the version of you that has everything together, not the version that shows up composed and certain and full of answers. He knows the version that woke up this morning already tired, the version that has been carrying something heavy and hasn't told anyone, the version that whispered a prayer last night, not even sure the words were enough, not even sure they reached anywhere at all. He knows that version, and he called that version here, to this moment, to this stillness, because that is exactly the version he wants to meet. Before the day begins, there is an invitation, not a demand, not a list of things you must do to be worthy of this moment, just an invitation, soft and open and without condition, to lay down, even if only for these few minutes, the weight you have been carrying, to stop performing, to stop managing, to stop holding yourself together with sheer willpower, and let something greater than yourself hold you instead. This is what the morning was always meant to be. Not a launch pad for productivity, not a race to the first task, but a threshold, a sacred crossing from the night into the new day, where you are reminded, before the world gets its hands on you, who you are and whose you are. You are loved, you are seen, you are known by name. And this day, with all its uncertainty and all its demands and all its unknowns still waiting around the corner, this day was given to you as a gift, not because you earned it, not because you have been perfect or faithful or strong enough, but but simply because grace does not operate on merit. Grace operates on love. So breathe, let your shoulders drop, let your jaw unclench, let the list of everything you haven't done yet wait just a little longer. You are here, you are present, and in this moment, that is enough. There is something about the early morning that feels closer to the divine. The world has not yet filled itself with sound and movement and demand. The light, if there is light, is still soft, still gentle, still becoming. And in that in-between space, where the night has not quite let go, and the day has not quite arrived, there is a thinness to the air, a nearness, as though the distance between the human and the holy has been reduced to something you could almost reach out and touch. This is the hour the mystics loved. This is the hour the saints sought, not because God is absent in the middle of the day or the noise of the afternoon, but because in the quiet, it is easier to hear. In the stillness, it is easier to feel. In the emptiness before the world rushes in, there is room for something sacred to settle. And so, before the day begins, you are invited to do one simple thing. Be here, not anywhere else. Not in yesterday's regrets or tomorrow's fears. Not in the conversation you're already rehearsing or the problem you're already trying to solve. Just here, just now, just this breath, and then the next, and then the next. Because this is where He is. Not in the past you cannot change, not in the future you cannot control, but here, in this present, breathing moment, in the voice that speaks beneath the noise, in the love that holds you even when you are not paying attention. Before the day begins, He is already there, and He has been waiting for you. There are words that heal. Not because of the way they sound, not because they are perfectly arranged, or spoken with the right tone of voice, or accompanied by the right feeling in the chest, but because of where they come from the deepest, most unguarded place inside a human being, from the part of you that has stopped pretending, from the part that has finally, after all the managing and the holding together and the performing, decided to tell the truth. That is what prayer is, at its most essential. Not a ritual, not a formula, not a performance for an audience you are trying to impress. Prayer, in its truest form, is simply the soul speaking honestly to the one who already knows everything it is about to say and loves it anyway. And sometimes, the most powerful prayer you can offer is not a long and eloquent one. Sometimes it is just a few words, spoken from the floor of your exhaustion, in the dark corner of your most honest moment. I'm tired, Lord. I need you. I don't know what comes next, but I trust you. That is enough. That has always been enough. There is a kind of prayer that most people are familiar with, the kind that comes in moments of crisis, when the diagnosis arrives, when the relationship fractures, when the money runs out and the options narrow and the fear becomes so loud it drowns out everything else. In those moments, prayer comes naturally, almost instinctively, the way a child reaches for a parent in the dark. But there is another kind of prayer, a quieter one, a more demanding one in its own way. It is the prayer of the ordinary morning, the prayer that is not driven by emergency, but by choice. The prayer that says, not because everything is falling apart, but simply because you have decided today to begin differently. I choose to come to you first, before the noise, before the rush, before I give this day to everything and everyone else. I give it first to you. This kind of prayer is an act of profound faith, because it is easy to pray when you are desperate. Desperation removes all the barriers, all the self-consciousness, all the hesitation. But to pray on a quiet morning, when life is simply moving along and the urgency is not acute, that requires something more. It requires the belief, deep and settled and real, that this matters, that showing up here, in this stillness, with these few minutes of your morning, is not a small thing. It is, in fact, everything. So let this be your prayer right now, not someone else's words borrowed for convenience, but yours, shaped by your life, your history, your particular set of wounds and wonders. Let it rise from the specific texture of who you are, because that is the prayer He is listening for, not a generic offering, but the unrepeatable voice of this soul. In this moment, on this particular morning, you are allowed to bring all of it. The gratitude, yes, but also the confusion, the faith, yes, but also the doubt that sometimes sits beside it like an unwanted companion, the hope, yes, but also the fear that hope might be disappointed again. You are allowed to come as a complete human being, not a curated version of one. He is not fragile. He can hold all of it. So if there is something you have been afraid to say in prayer, something that has felt too raw, too angry, too broken, too small, too selfish, too complicated, this is the moment. This is the space. Say it, not because saying it will fix everything, but because carrying it alone was never the design. You were never meant to hold all of this by yourself. Let it go. Let it be heard. Let the one who knows your name receive what you have been afraid to hand over. And then, after the honesty, after the release, after the words that had been lodged somewhere between your throat and your heart finally find their way out, something begins to shift. It is not always dramatic. It rarely is. It is not a thunderclap or a sudden flood of certainty or a vision that removes all doubt. It is quieter than that, more like a loosening, like the moment after a long cry when the body finally stops resisting and simply rests, like the exhale after a breath held too long. Peace, not the peace that comes from everything being resolved, but the peace that comes from no longer carrying it alone. Peace I leave with you, he said. My peace I give you. Not as the world gives, do I give to you. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid. This is the peace that prayer opens the door to. Not the absence of difficulty, but the presence of something stronger than the difficulty. Not the removal of the storm, but the steady ground beneath your feet while the storm moves through. When you pray, truly pray, from that honest, unguarded place, you are not simply sending words into the sky. You are repositioning yourself. You are remembering who holds what you cannot hold. You are returning, even for just these few minutes, to the truth that you were never meant to figure this out alone, and that remembering changes things. There are prayers that take years to be answered. You may know some of those. Prayers you have carried for so long, they have become part of the architecture of your faith, present in every conversation with God, woven into the fabric of your deepest hoping. Prayers for healing, for restoration, for someone you love to find their way back, for a door to open that has remained closed for longer than you can understand. Do not stop praying those prayers, not because perseverance guarantees the outcome you are hoping for, but because the act of continuing to bring something before God again and again is itself a declaration. It says, I still believe, even when I don't understand, even when the answer hasn't come, even when the silence has stretched so long that doubt has had plenty of time to move in and make itself comfortable. I still believe that you hear me. I still believe that you are working in the spaces I cannot see. That kind of faith is not weakness. It is not naivety. It is one of the most courageous things a human being can do, and it does not go unnoticed. But today, in this moment, the prayer is simpler. Today, the prayer is just, thank you for this morning. Thank you for this breath. Thank you for the fact that I am here, that I woke up, that I have been given another chance to begin again. Because that is what each morning is, a beginning, a reset, a page that has not yet been written, offered to you with open hands. Whatever yesterday held, whatever you did or didn't do, whatever was said or left unsaid, whatever broke or bent or disappointed, it is done. It is finished. And this morning, with all its quiet and all its possibility, is new. Receive it, not as a burden, but as a gift, not with dread for what it might demand, but with something close to wonder at the simple, extraordinary fact that you are alive in it, and let that wonder become your prayer. Let your open hands be your prayer. Let your willingness to be here, to pause, to listen, to receive, let all of that be the offering, because a heart that shows up, even when it is tired, even when it is uncertain, even when it is not sure it has the right words, that heart is already praying. You are already praying, and you are already heard. Good morning. 2 words so simple they are spoken 1,000 times a day without a second thought. A greeting exchanged in hallways and coffee shops and over kitchen tables between people who may or may not truly see each other. Words so ordinary they have almost lost their weight. But when spoken to her, to the one who stood at the foot of the cross and did not look away, to the one who said yes before she fully understood what yes would cost her, to the one whose heart was pierced so that yours might be held. These 2 words carry the weight of everything. Good morning, Our Lady. I am here. I made it to another day. And before I give this day to anything or anyone else, I give it to you to carry to your son the way you have always carried what we could not carry ourselves. There is something profoundly tender about devotion to Mary, something that does not demand explanation or theological argument to be felt. It lives in a place beneath the intellect, in the body, in the memory, in the part of the soul that was shaped long before words were available to describe it. For many, she is the first sacred name they ever learned, spoken by a grandmother's lips over a rosary, worn smooth with years of faithful fingers, whispered in a hospital room when medicine had done all it could do, called out in the dark of a night that refused to end, when no human comfort was enough and something older and deeper was needed. She has been there in all of it, not as a distant figure of religious art, frozen in blue and gold behind the glass of a church window, but as a presence, warm and real and close in the way that only a mother can be close, not because she removes the pain, but because she refuses to let you face it alone. She knows what it is to receive news that changes everything. She knows what it is to say yes to something that makes no rational sense, that cannot be explained to the neighbors or justified to the skeptics, that requires a kind of surrender so complete it leaves you breathless. She knows what it is to watch someone you love suffer and be unable to stop it, to stand at the edge of the worst moment of your life and remain, not because remaining is easy, but because love does not leave. She has walked every road that grief walks. She has sat with every silence that follows loss. She has held in her own body the specific weight of faith tested to its absolute limit, and she did not break. And because she has walked it, she can walk it with you. This is why you come to her in the morning, not to bypass the Father, not to replace the Son, but because she is the mother. And there are things you bring to a mother that you bring nowhere else. A particular tenderness of asking, a particular vulnerability of need, the kind of prayer that doesn't arrive fully formed, but comes out fragmented and wet with feeling, and somehow she understands every word of it anyway. You don't have to explain yourself to her. She already knows. She has always known, the way a mother knows, not from information received, but from love given, from the particular attentiveness that comes from having chosen over and over again to pay attention to you. So this morning, bring her what you have. Bring her the worry you woke up with, the one that was already sitting on your chest before you even opened your eyes, the one that has no simple solution and no clear timeline and no guarantee of resolution. Bring her the relationship that is fraying at the edges, the health concern you haven't told anyone about yet, the loneliness that sits quietly inside a life that looks, from the outside, completely fine. Bring her the gratitude too, the small and specific gratitude that often goes unexpressed because there doesn't seem to be a proper place for it. The beauty of the morning light, the warmth of the coffee in your hands, the fact that you are breathing, that your heart is beating, that you are here. Bring her all of it. She has room for all of it. Our Lady, cover this day with your mantle. Cover what I can see and what I cannot. Cover the conversations I will have and the ones I am dreading. Cover the decisions I must make and the ones I have already made and cannot undo. Cover the people I love who are walking through darkness I cannot reach into. Cover my own heart, its fears, its wounds, its stubborn places that have not yet learned to trust completely. Walk with me today, not ahead of me, moving so fast I lose sight of you, not behind me, arriving only after the damage is done, but beside me, the way you have always been, quiet, steady, present, interceding in the spaces between my words, carrying to your Son what I do not even know how to name. You who said yes so that grace could enter the world, say yes again, today, on my behalf. Yes to healing where I am broken. Yes to clarity where I am confused. Yes to courage where I am afraid. Yes to love where I have grown cold or closed or too tired to keep trying. Say yes for me, Our Lady, on the mornings when my own yes feels too small. John 10:27 says that his sheep hear hear his voice. And Mary, more than anyone who has ever lived, heard that voice. She heard it before it spoke its first human word. She heard it in the cry of a newborn in a stable, in the questions of a 12-year-old in the temple, in the silence of a son who knew what was coming and chose to go anyway. She spent a lifetime learning the texture of that voice, the weight of it, the love woven through every syllable of it, and she can help you hear it too. When the noise of life grows so loud that the still, small voice becomes impossible to find, she knows where it is. She has always known. She will take your hand and lead you back to it, the way she has led countless souls before you, across centuries and continents and every conceivable variety of human suffering and human joy. This is her gift. This is her calling. This is the yes she continues to live, morning after morning, for every soul that comes to her with open hands. So as this day begins, as the quiet of this moment gives way to the movement and the noise and the fullness of ordinary life, carry something with you. Not a resolution, not a list of spiritual goals, not a performance of faith that exhausts you before noon. Just this, the knowledge that you are not walking into this day alone, that the one who formed you knew you before you knew yourself, that the mother who stood at the cross is standing beside you now, this morning, in this ordinary and sacred moment, that the voice that called the universe into being is the same voice that calls you by name, gently, persistently, with a love that has never once wavered. You heard it today. That is why you are here. And wherever this day takes you, into joy or difficulty, into clarity or confusion, into moments of grace so obvious they take your breath away, or into long stretches of ordinary that ask you simply to keep going, you are held. You have always been held. Good morning, Our Lady. Thank you for this day. Thank you for this breath. Thank you for the sign that found its way to whoever needed it most, and for the quiet miracle of a soul that was still listening. May this day be touched by grace. May every step be covered. May every fear be met with peace, and every doubt be met with the gentle, persistent reminder that you are known, you are loved, and you are never, not even for a single moment, alone. Go now. The day is yours, and it is good. You came here looking for a sign, and perhaps what you found was something simpler than you expected, and at the same time, something far deeper. Not a dramatic revelation, not a thunderclap of certainty, but a moment of stillness in a world that rarely stops moving. A reminder that you are seen. A prayer that opened something inside you that had been closed, maybe for a long time. That is the sign. It was never going to arrive in noise and spectacle. It was always going to come the way grace comes, quietly, in the ordinary, in the space between one breath and the next, in the unexpected pause that changes the entire texture of a day. You paused today. You listened. You prayed. You said good morning to a mother who has never stopped watching over you, and you let yourself be held, even if only for these few minutes, by something greater than the weight you carry. That matters more than you know. Go into this day differently than you came into this video, not because everything has been resolved, but because you remembered, for a moment, that you do not have to resolve it all alone. Not because the fear is gone, but because you placed it, one more time, into hands that are strong enough to hold it. His sheep hear his voice. You heard it today. Now go, and may every step of this day remind you that you are loved beyond measure, held beyond understanding, and never, not even for a single breath, forgotten. Amen. Strengthen your prayers, because many good things are about to come your way. Leave in the comments which city you are praying from, and your name and your family's name so we can pray together. And subscribe to the channel so we can build a great prayer chain.